Hello there. So, sometime recently you've gotten the information or the suspicion or the concern that someone in your family, someone you love, is facing something that may be kind of serious from a mental illness or mental health or psychological perspective. And you know what I thought? I thought it would be great for us to take a look and have a conversation very quickly about what are the kind of first steps that need to be taken when something like this comes out. And so let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Legg. I'm an LPC supervisor and the owner of Aletheia Family Counseling Center here in Tyler, Texas, and around other places. I've been working with issues like these for about 25 years and thought it might help for you to know in this time, what are some next steps that you can take? It's easy to panic. It's easy to let fear take over. It's easy to let doubt kind of rule the day. And none of those are the best options. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some time and I'll record some more videos to be attached to this to connect to some of the specific things that we may face as parents, as spouses, as loved ones, and just a very quick look at what are some first steps before we react, before we overreact or underreact. What are some first steps we need to do? So, because some considerations, always a good idea is to listen and listen well. Listen to the professionals, listen to your friends, listen to the person who you're talking to, that loved one, that kid, that teenager. So listen well and don't panic. You're not the first person to face this. You're not the first family to face whatever this is. And so there's no reason to panic. There are ways to deal with all of these different things, and there are proven ways that really can help. And so we're just going to look at some of the very basic first steps with each of these different headings. Not going to have an hour of time here. You're not going to have to listen very long. But just to kind of stave off that initial sense of fear or frustration or anger or denial or the different things that we face there. So keep in mind, it's never necessary for a parent to help their child, for a loved one to help someone ruin their lives or destroy their lives. So that's going to be a guideline that as you're engaging with this, remember, it's okay to love people, even people who are hurt or people who are addicted or people who face these challenges. And it's okay to do so in a way that draws healthy boundaries. Primarily, I'm going to be talking to you as under the assumption that you're a Christian family who loves one another. And no one does that perfectly. Everyone messes that up, that you love your kids, you love your teenager, you love your spouse. And so as you're engaging with these questions, don't forget to pray. Don't forget to be still. And remember that there is a God. Things don't spin out of his control, even when they seem like they have spun out of control, and they certainly do spin out of our control all the time. So, and also I would encourage you, take some time, and this may take some time, to evaluate your family system. Are there stressors that can be reduced? Are there patterns or habits or things like that going on that it'd be a good idea to really stop and get some help and dig into, not just with the individual who is presenting with these issues, but in fact, the whole family system to look at it. Normally, we're a product of the whole system. Where are we engaging in these different things, and how are we engaging with them? And then we're going to look at some next steps, how to get help, how to find the right kind of help, medical help, counseling help, community help, and to reach out to those who are around us. So, with that being said, I'm going to start jumping into some of the different headings. And you probably clicked on that heading to get this introduction and then the part that's going to follow. And I hope these things are helpful for you. So here we go. All right, so your concern is that you've got a loved one, maybe a teenager who's communicated to you issues about their sexual identity. Again, this is one of those things that can cause us to immediately kind of respond in a panicked way, in a scared way, in an angry way, because we often deal with the emotions of feeling even sometimes betrayed. We're immediately experiencing an overload of grief. What does this mean for my life? Especially for us as Christian families, the Bible does speak very clearly about some of these issues. And so what we want to do sometimes is immediately come back with what the Bible says about this with our child or our loved one. And that's going to be an important part of the conversation, probably somewhere down the road. At the beginning, though, what I really want to encourage you to do is to follow the biblical admonition, to listen. We have more ears than we have mouths, and it's a good idea to listen for a long time, and usually much longer than we think we ought to before we move into some kind of lecture mode. The first thing that someone who's experiencing confusion about sexual identity, about sexual attractions, the first thing they're going to need to know is that they're safe to talk about it with you. And so you want to be able to listen, to make sure that they know that you care, and to understand this isn't going to be easy on any of you. And sometimes that's an important part of this, is to let them know, to remind them this isn't easy. It's not like there's some easy way to have these conversations, but this is happening all the time, all around us now. And so, and sometimes this is a phase that kids go through or young people go through. Sometimes it has to do with things they've been exposed to, but sometimes it's much deeper than that, and we can't make the assumption that we know. So one is, I really would encourage you, as you listen a lot, that's a big first step, is to listen. Now, as I said in the introduction, we're never required to help our children destroy their lives. And so it is going to be okay that we draw some boundaries, that we have some conversations, and that we seek to find professional help. And so finding a good Christian therapist who understands these issues, who knows how to engage with these issues, who has a similar perspective to you on these issues, with how they engage with this from a moral perspective as well as a psychological perspective. And that may not be easy to find. If we can help you with that at aletheacounseling.com, you can reach out to us and we could try to help you find that, answer some of those questions. But know one up front, it is complex. Issues of attraction and sexuality are complex. If you're an adult, you know that. If you're in a relationship, you know. If you have children, you know that these are always going to be complex, and that they are linked to our identity. But the message to many of our young people today is that that's all that matters about their identity. And we want to be able to have a much deeper, more complex conversation about identity than merely issues of attraction and sexuality. Especially during the teen years, the influence of friends, what they're watching and listening to has a huge impact on these things. And so there may be some changes that you and a professional and your child or your loved one are going to be able to engage in a conversation about this. Again, let me reiterate. Very often our first response is one of panic or anger or even betrayal and grief. Very often we use anger as an anesthetic. What we really feel is scared or confused, and how we respond is in anger. It's not helpful. What we're going to want to be able to do is to listen and love even while we stand with the truth, as it says in Ephesians 4. We want to speak the truth in love. And so, especially to our loved ones, we want to have that conversation. You're going to be parents. You're going to be friends. Don't try to be the therapist. Find a therapist, find a counselor who could sit down and talk through these issues with them, and make sure in advance that they have similar views that you do about this as well. You always want to come back to these issues as issues of identity. And there are bigger aspects of our identity than something as mercurial as attraction, as something that changes as easily as issues of sexuality, as something that we're easily confused about, like issues of sexuality, not anchoring on something as simple as those. And so a professional can help us talk through these. Hopefully you'll be able to involve pastor and friends and others, and you'll be able to help this be a part of your walk. Hopefully you've already developed good friendships and good community in your church and with your family. And so even though you may have some emotions of embarrassment or shame, to be able to have these conversations is really important. Okay, so again, quickly to summarize, there are no easy answers. You're going to have to figure out how to deal with your own emotions. You may need to find your own professional to sit and talk with about your grief, even or pain in these conversations. Especially dads sometimes react initially with a sense of anger or control, and those are usually not the best first responses. There may be a place for boundaries in some of those difficult conversations down the road, and you want to make sure that when you have those down the road, that there's still a relationship left for those conversations. You want your loved one to know when and if they reach a place of being able and willing to talk about this more openly, that you're a safe place for that. So you're going to lay the groundwork for that even now. This applies to things like a child who comes and tells you about sexual assault, or a daughter who comes and tells you that she's pregnant, or a son who comes to tell you that he's got another girl pregnant, that this is now part of their life. Again, we want to respond in a healthy, graceful, truth-based way, not with our own anger or fear or denial, but we want to start by listening, just as we see modeled in Scripture. And so to listen, to care, to communicate love. They already know probably where you stand on these issues in regards to morality. And those are conversations for the future, but usually they don't need to be the initial first sudden response. That's what someone's looking for, and they're prepared to be defensive to that. So no easy answers. Listen, engage and govern with your own emotions in regards to this kind of stuff. And then reach out for the community, especially a good Christian professional counselor is going to be they're just going to be solid gold to you in regards to this conversation. You do need to be aware in the psychological world very often that even a Christian psychologist or a Christian counselor will have a bent in this that they've been trained that they think is more important than the scriptural perspective. Just be aware that that can be part of the conversation. So that's why I keep saying you want to have a conversation with a professional to make sure you're on the same page with them in regards to whatever your beliefs are on this. Okay, there's a lot there, but those are some first initial thoughts that will help, maybe help you not respond in a way that's not going to be helpful down the road. Side note, if you've already responded that way, if you've already responded in anger or denial or lashing out, you've said and done some things that you regret or that you now realize aren't going to be helpful or functional, it is okay to go back to the young person who you've done that with and apologize and own it and even confess that you're new to this stuff too, and that you pray that they will be patient with you in it. It's usually a really good idea to reach out that way. We want to take a humble stance. Pride is not the proper response no matter what side of this issue that you're on. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to you. It'll help get you started. You're welcome to reach out to us. We'd love to help if we can. And blessings on you as you discuss and deal with these issues in your family. All right, hope that helps.